So, let's jump right in with this Goblin versus Gnome card review. First up, we've got the Annoyatron, a 2-mana 1/2 with Taunt and Divine Shield. He is a mech, which is relevant. That being said, this card is really just kind of another dinky thing that was thrown in there. The fact that he has Taunt and Divine Shield means he's going to be very hard to remove from the board, but he's not a threat at all. I mean, a 1/2, he's basically a Goldshire Footman with an extra life, and the extra 1 mana to try to make it viable, where it's neither overpowered nor completely underpowered, just doesn't really work here. This guy's just a sticky dink, and unless your entire game plan is to sit there and never take damage from the opponent, but on the other hand, never affect their board, like you're trying to run some sort of weird control warlock that, like, just sits there throwing sticky minions out like the Annoyatron and Sludge Belcher and other minions like that, unless that's your game plan so you can just wreck your opponent with a Twisting Nether, this card is going to suck. So I would not recommend running it at all, and I do not think this is a great card. Next up, the Blingtron 3000, a 3/4 for 5 mana. The stats aren't great, but the battle cry could be pretty ridiculous, of equip a random weapon for each player. Now, he's also a legendary, so of course you can only have one in your deck, but with that battle cry equipping a random weapon for each player, since it gives each player a weapon, it's just as likely to hurt you as it is to help you, which means his stats should be good for a 5-mana creature. Because at the very least, if he screws you over by giving you the Rogue's Dagger, and giving your opponent Gorehowl, or Ashbringer, you want to have at least a 5-mana 5/5. The fact that it's a 3/4 means unless you have a hilarious weapon removal deck, like running this guy with Harrison Ford, or, I'm sorry, Harrison Jones. I haven't played Hearthstone in a while. I'm getting creature names mixed up. But, unless you run this with Acidic Ooze and Harrison Jones, this is not going to be a good card to stick in your deck. So, standalone, he's not good, but in a weapon killer deck, he's not bad. And again, he combos really well with Harrison Jones, but unless you're playing him on turn 10, which is a rather ridiculous notion to save a 5-mana card for turn 10, you're not going to combo him with Harrison Jones on the exact same turn. So even if your opponent, or even if you plan to combo him with Harrison Jones, your opponent is going to get 1 turn to mess around with a potentially OP weapon. And that's not cool. So I don't like him, but I can see a deck archetype where he would be somewhat useful. I don't think he's going to make a big splash in competitive play, though. So, interesting card, going to be great for Arena, but would I be running him in a Priest deck? Certainly not. Next up, Bomb Lobber. He's a 5-mana 3/3. Again, the stats. Come on. Really, Blizzard. The stats. But the battle cry makes up for it because it deals 4 damage to a random enemy minion. This guy's a niche card. If you are on the play instead of on the draw, he could be really useful because a lot of 4-drops will... Well, no, that's not even true because most 4-drops have 5 health. Ironically, most 5-drops have 4 health. He could be good in certain situations, but if your opponent's trying to flood out the board, like, say against a Zoo player, this guy is not going to be great. And against anyone who's not running tons of small minions, they're likely going to have healthier minions than what he can take out. Again, he'll still probably be good, because, based on RNG, the fact that he could, if your opponent has a 3-mana, a 3-drop and a 5-drop sitting on the field, you could play Bomb Lobber and you've still got a 50/50 to take out that 3-drop, and then still have a 3/3 that your opponent has to get rid of. So, he could be good, but I don't like him because his stats are just so terrible for a 5-drop. Like, if Azure Drake were a 3/3 instead of a 4/4, it would not be played. And while this card is fair, I suppose, I don't see it making a huge splash. The most hilarious thing I can see, though, is that this could be used as an answer to Gadget Zan Auctioneer, meaning Miracle Rogue is going to have problems, because if someone plays a Gadget Zan and stealths it and you just drop a Bomb Lobber, it's going to be the most hilarious thing, especially because you know your opponent just broke his keyboard. So, maybe run as a one-of to take care of Miracles, but we already have Lotheb for that, and he's a 5/5 instead of a 3/3, so I don't know. I'm not sure what this card is going to do, but personally, I don't like him that much. Next up is Boombot, a 1-mana 1/1, with a death rattle of deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy minion. This is okay. This is just fine, because this guy is going to, first of all, be amazing in death rattle decks. You run him with a Undertaker, and you've got a just crazy good turn 1. But second of all, your opponent has to deal with it somehow. And if he's using AoE, he's going to get bit for it. If he's using a creature, he's going to get bit for it. This thing could be a Bomb Lobber, but it has respectable stats for its mana cost. So, I mean, that's just crazy. Now, it is a random enemy, so it could just hit your opponent in the face instead of hitting one of their creatures, but still, if your opponent gets whacked for 4 damage for taking out a 1/1, which is possible while not probable, that's crazy good. I really like this Boombot card. This just seems like a good card to me. So, yeah, I don't know. I look forward to playing with this one, assuming I get back into Hearthstone. Next up is Cogmaster, a 1-mana 1/2. But it does have +2 attack while you have a mech. So in a mech-themed deck that runs, you know, cards like Boombot, you could basically have a 1-mana 3/2, which is really good. And on top of that, you know, combo this with something like Boombot, and suddenly you've got a 3/2 that's getting +2 attack from a 1/1. And if you kill off that 1/1 to nerf his attack, you're going to get smacked for it for an average of 2 to 3 damage. That's pretty crazy. So, in a mech-themed deck, this could be good. Do I think this will enter competitive play? Maybe not. There aren't enough competitively crazy mechs to justify running a mech-only deck. But, if you mix this in with a Death Rattle deck that also runs mech, so it's like a 50-50 mix, maybe slightly more heavily geared towards mechs that actually have Death Rattle, yeah, that'd be viable. So this guy's got a lot of potential, and I'm interested to see how he will affect the meta. Next up is Dr. Boom, a 7-mana 7/7 with a battlecry of summon 2 1/1 Boombots. With a text of warning, bots may explode, so I'm not sure if they have a chance to just automatically detonate. But even if that's the case, a 7-mana 7/7 isn't bad. A 7-mana 7/7 with a battle cry of summon 2 1/1s that will deal at least 2 damage to random enemies. Not bad, especially given that the average is that he will deal 4 to 6 damage to somebody. Or, you know, a mixture of people that your opponent controls. So, Dr. Boom, I don't know. He doesn't seem terrible as a legendary, but he doesn't seem crazy good. I don't know. He's also in big game hunter range, but I guess smacking the big game with a 1-mana Boombot would be pretty cool because you can just kill it off. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what this guy's going to do, but he seems like he could be good. Yeah. Next up is the Enhanso Mechano, a 4-mana 3/2 mech with a battlecry of give your other minions Wind Fury, Taunt, or Divine Shield at random. This means it's going to be all of your other minions. Zoo. Hello, Zoo. Can you imagine if a Zoo player just gave all their minions Divine Shield and then also ran Blood Knight? Holy crap. So this guy's going to be played in Zoo. Guaranteed. I can basically guarantee it. And it's just going to be good. It's going to be so good. But I don't know. I don't think he'll make a big splash in other decks, because nothing else spams minions as hard as Zoo does. On top of that, it might give Priest a reason to actually run a one-of Mass Dispel, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I seriously believe that this is just going to be a Zoo staple. Next up, Explosive Sheep, a 2-mana 1/1 with a Death Rattle of deal 2 damage to all minions. I think Priest could make use of it. Could. As to other classes, though, maybe Warrior runs a one-of this instead of running, the ghoul that explodes. I don't remember his name. 2-mana, 1/3, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. This card seems like it could be very good, but it needs to be run in a slower deck. So I think Control Warrior could make use of it. Control Priest could make use of it. I mean, all priests are control. What am I talking about? So Priest could probably make use of it. As to Handlock, probably not. Could Rogue use this? Don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. Explosive Sheep is interesting because it's just got so much potential to bite you in the butt. So, I don't know if he'll be ran or not, but 2 mana for a board wipe, especially if comboed with, say, a Whirlwind on a Warrior's part, boom, you got a 3 mana for Hellfire. That doesn't hurt people. Crazy. It is a 2-card combo, but still, there's plenty of those in Hearthstone. So, run that with an Armorsmith, and you get value. So I definitely... okay, yeah, I'm going to change my statement. I think Control Warrior is going to run this. As to every other deck, I don't know how the Explosive Sheep would fit in. We'll have to see. Next up is Flame Cannon, Mage's unique class-only card. 2 mana to deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. I mean... I don't really know how this is going to work out, because Hearthstone is really getting RNG based. I'm trying to compare this to Frostbolt, and I feel like the targeted damage is going to make Frostbolt still a card that is more powerful than Flame Cannon. I don't know if Mages are going to board out something else instead to run Flame Cannon, because it doesn't seem terrible, but on the other hand, the fact that it's random means it could just go and thump something like, you know, an Armorsmith instead of that 4 health Sylvanas when your board doesn't have anything on it. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what people do with Flame Cannon, but it seems good, but unreliable, which means... I don't know. Next up is Goblin Blast Mage, another Mage unique card. A 4 mana 5/4. Can we appreciate those stats? That is one of 2 cards in the game with those stats. That and the Ancient Brewmaster, for 4 mana, that is. And that's crazy good stats for a 4 mana creature. On top of that, the battle cry of if you control a mech, deal 4 damage randomly split among only enemy characters. This guy is like a crazy high stat 4 mana creature, which is just viable to run for his stats alone. And on top of that, he's also a buffed Mad Bomber that cannot backfire on you, and all you need is a mech. Run this guy with a Boombot. Boom. You suddenly have a great archetype for a Death Rattle mech deck for mages. That's just insane. So I think Death Rattle Mech Mage would be something that could actually be a thing. And I'm really eager to see if that's going to become a thing, because it's just, I don't know. This card is crazy good, though. Like, mages will run this, and it will break the meta. Not to say that, mage will suddenly be OP and unbeatable, but it'll break the meta in the sense that current decks will not be able to compete with this on a viable level. Of course, other new cards will swing in, and new deck archetypes will come out that will be able to handle this, but I don't know what those are, and this is just going to be a crazy good card. Next up is Matter Bomber. A 5-mana 5/4, so we're seeing a bit more price for the stats. Still not bad, though, considering a lot of the 5-mana cards that are being run right now are either legendaries or 4/4s. With a Battle Crave, deal 6 damage randomly split between all other characters. There's a reason why Mad Bomber isn't run. He bites people in the butt way too often. This guy is giving the most insane chance for RNG to screw you over or win the game for you. So, I mean, if you just want to build a derpy RNG deck, go for it. This will be hilarious. But, competitive viability? 0. This card will not be run in competitive decks. It's unpredictable as heck. And I really don't like cards like this that are just straight up RNG. No skill involved in them, just... let's leave it to chance to who wins this game. I don't know. That's just me, though. Maybe you love it, in which case, this card is great for you. Next up is Mecha Warper, or just Mech Warper. I am sorry. A 2-mana 2/3 mech with text of your mechs cost 1 less. Not bad. Not bad. Hang on, give me 1 sec. Okay, I apologize for that. Lives OP. This, he's got decent stats for a 2-drop. It would be preferable if he were a 3/2. But if you're planning to run a mech deck, I don't know how viable he's going to be if, instead there's just so many other good mech cards that you would prefer to run instead of Mech Warper, that he's just not going to be run because he's outclassed by the text of other mech cards. Or if he's going to be viable in a Death Rattle mech deck, specifically, with the mage archetype, because a Death Rattle mech mage deck is just, it's going to appear. I don't know. I'm not sure how this card is going to work. His stats aren't bad for his cost, and this guy in a mech deck would be certainly viable, but I don't know. Interested to see what he does. Next up, Mechgineer Thermoplug. He is a 9-mana 9/7 mech. Holy crap, that's expensive. This guy is dragon status. His text is, whenever an enemy minion dies, summon a leper gnome. Come on. He's not going to be used, and there's a very specific reason for this. He can be dealt with by things like Shadow or Death, Deadly Shot, Big Game Hunter. There's any number of ways to deal with this guy, so he's going to be killed when you play him. He costs so much on top of that that you are not going to be board wiping the turn you play him. So your enemy is going to deal with him. It's the same reason that Prophet Velen isn't run, that Kel'Thuzad was not run in anything other than the Death Rattle Shaman, because Death Rattle Shaman could combo it with Reincarnate, so that there would be 2 Kel'Thuzads on the board no matter what your opponent did, unless he's silenced. So, yeah. He's just too expensive. He's not going to make any difference in the game at all. You want a 9/7, go run the Beast. That's way better card for that. And the Beast isn't run for a reason. This guy, an extra 3 mana to run a copy of the Beast. Don't even bother with him. Next up, Micro Machine, a 2-mana 1/2 mech. At the start of each turn, gain 1 attack. Oh look, a mini Shaded Axe Rammus. Except it's each turn, so you will gain attack at the start of your opponent's turn. Could be good in a mech deck. But, I mean, by the start of your turn, after you've passed it to your opponent and gotten the turn back, it's going to be a 3-2. So in that regard, he's actually not bad at all. Because he's going to come into play as a 1-2, you're going to pass the turn, he's going to get +1, your opponent's going to take their turn, and if they don't clear this guy off, he's going to get buffed again and become a 3-2. So that's what his true stats are, from the second you're able to attack with him. Yeah. This will definitely be run in mech decks, because you have to answer him or he'll start snowballing out of control. So, yeah. Mage, Death Rattle, mech deck. It's going to be a thing, guys. It's going to be a thing, and it's going to be aggro, and it's going to be scary. Next up, Piloted Shredder. Excuse me. A 4-mana 4/3, not the best stats for a 4-mana card, with the Death Rattle of summon a random 2-cost minion. It is a mech, which I guess makes it slightly better. But if you look at all of the 2-mana cost minions in Hearthstone, there's a lot of them that do not have the best stats. They've all got some interesting text, but I mean, this guy's stats are just crap for his mana cost. A 4-mana cost minion, if you want to run it competitively, is either going to have to do something when it comes into play, which is the only reason that Spellbreak... Is it Spellbreaker? 4-mana 4/3 with a battle cry of silence. Silence an enemy minion. Targeted, of course. I think that's Spellbreaker. The only reason that is competitively viable is because it does something when it comes into play, and its main purpose is to be silencing things. This is doing something when it leaves play, so your opponent has a chance to prepare for that eventuality, or just because its stats are so bad, you can kill it off and then maybe attack into that 2-mana minion, because by turn 4 you should have a minion that can survive hitting a 2-mana minion. So, he's a little sticky, kind of like Sludge Belcher, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be amazing. I really don't. I don't think Zoo's going to bother running him. I don't think that, you know, Mech Mage would bother running him. It's just... There's enough 2-drops in the game that aren't amazing in terms of their stats that this just isn't going to work. I don't think it's going to work. I could be very wrong, but that's my personal opinion. Next up is the Piloted Sky Golem, a 6-mana 6/4 with a Death Rattle of summon a random 4-cost minion. This guy's more expensive, and he's got very interesting stats for his mana cost, because we have never seen a 6/4 before for 6 mana. So I'm not sure how those stats are going to play into the game. They are weak for a 6-mana card, just like with our previous minion. This would be a 4/5 ideally if we wanted perfect stats. Again, this would be OP if it were a 4/5, so I'm not saying, Blizzard, what the heck, you screwed up, you should have made this a 4/5, then it'd be decent. No. Don't create Yetis that have Death Rattles of summon a random 2-cost minion. But, in terms of stats, the target you're looking for is something along the lines of, you know, at least a 6/5. However, this guy's Death Rattle is so incredibly insane, because the stats of 4-mana cost minions are just good. You're going to be getting things like 3/5s, Yetis, Ancient Brewmasters. It's 4-mana cost minions are just known for their stat value. So this guy dies and then hits the sweet spot for summoning high stat minions, which is really, really good. But he is expensive, so I'm not sure what kind of deck is going to run him. I don't think Mage will, because that kind of Mech Mage Death Rattle archetype would want to be a lot faster than summoning 6-mana cost minions that don't do anything when on the turn they come into play. But still, this card seems extremely good. I just don't know what deck is going to run him. Could Priest Maybe. I don't know. Um, we'll have to see how the Hearthstone meta changes around guys like this, because this definitely seems like a card that is going to make its way into some deck. It's just too good not to. Next up is the Recombobulator. Love that name. He is a 2-mana 3/2 with the battle cry of transform a friendly minion into a random minion with the same cost. It is a random minion. So I don't think he's going to be run. Because the entire idea behind running cards in a deck is that they are the best card for the deck, for that mana cost. So if you are using this battle cry, you're going to be using your really good minions and gambling that they're going to turn into something equally good, but that is situationally somehow better. And statistically speaking, the chances of that are very low. Imagine, you know, you've got something on the field like a Northshire Cleric, and it gets turned into a Goldshire Footman. Just flip the table. You're done. Walk away. Game's over. So I don't think he's going to be that good, especially given the fact that he bites all the other mech cards in the butt that have death rattles, because their death rattles will not trigger because they do not die. They instead just get polymorphed. So I don't think he's going to be run. Despite having an amazing name, I actually think this card sucks. So unfortunate. Next up, Shrinkmeister, a 2-mana 3/2 with a battle cry of give a minion -2 attack this turn. Great Priest 2-drop. Exquisite. Why? You know all those annoying 4-mana cost cards that Priest can, or not 4-mana cost, those 4-attack cards that Priest can never manage to deal with? Let's just combo this with a Cabal Shadow Priest or a Shadow Word Pain, and boom, we don't even have to run Shadow Word Death anymore. Because we can just drop everything's attack straight into range. I'm kind of exaggerating here. Shadow Word Death is still going to be ran, but oh, okay. Let me backtrack a little. The reason why it's going to be ran is because you can't rely on always having Shrinkmeister and Shadow Word Pain as a 2-card combo to deal with every minion, just to replace a possible 1-card answer. Even then, this would only really kill off 5-attack minions if you had a Shadow Word Pain. Still, amazing card because it combos so well to get rid of those 4-attack minions and can be used with Cabal Shadow Priest on them to just take them. Since the -2 attack is only until the end of the turn, imagine taking Ysera from someone. This guy is like Crazed Alchemist on crack. Like, this card is crazy good. Just, yes! Thank you, Priest got a buff. I really needed it in my opinion, but this is the kind of card I love to see because it's just so mechanically strong. I will run this. Next up, Sneed's Old Shredder. Sorry. Why can I not read today? He's an 8-mana 5/7 mech, which are really horrible stats for an 8-mana cost minion. You want to be seeing an 8/8 or higher. With a death rattle of summon a random legendary minion. Wait, what? Huh? Okay. Okay. So that death rattle's good. I feel like he's an extension of the whole theme they've got going with mechs here of just death rattling into more minions. I guess you could run a whole mech death rattle deck that just is so hard to deal with because it just every time a mech dies, it's just going to end up summoning a new minion. I mean, if you ran one of these, 2 of the 6 drops that summon 4 drops, and 2 of the 4 drops that summon 2 drops, you've just gained a bonus 5 cards in your deck, albeit random, but you've gained 4 extra cards in your deck, or not 4, 5 extra cards in your deck, for free, and only at the expense of having slightly lower stat minions than what you would want. I don't know what class that would work in. I suppose Shaman? Because Shaman just loves Death Rattle because of all the reanimation potential they have. But, I mean, that kind of deck could see competitive play, maybe. I don't know. The only way that I can see this really backfiring is if it summons something like, Blood Mage Thalnos, or something like that. Yeah, this card is going to be a super annoying legendary minion to deal with because you deal with him and now you've got a new legendary to deal with. And the overwhelming majority of legendaries are also high stat, high power creatures. I suppose there's the risk that you could summon a Nat Pagal, or, as I said, a Blood Mage Thalnos, or some other weaker legendary like that, but most of the legendaries that you will be summoning will be crazy good, so... I don't know. I made the mistake on the release of the Nax cards of saying Silence is going to be so critical in this kind of a meta. I don't know if these kind of Death Rattle effects are going to cause Silence to be more necessary, because you're going to have to be removing other good cards in your deck to play these kind of cards, and that means you're putting in new powerful minions that can be silenced, but removing other powerful minions that might have needed silence in the first place. So I don't know if silencing is going to become more critical. Maybe, but... Okay, worst case scenario is this drops a Van Cleef. Because Battle Cries will not trigger off of that. That'd be great. To see this guy summon a Van Cleef. Just a 3-mana 2-2. Nowhere to go. Alright, moving on. We've got a Spider Tank, a 3-mana 3-4 mech. Good stats. Good stats. And in an aggro mech deck, I actually think he could be ran. Because he's a mech. With good stats. Maybe. I don't know. There's not much else to say, and again, in an aggro Death Rattle mech deck, this guy would certainly have a home. I don't know if he will, because there are other good cards, but he's got viability there. Next up is Unstable Portal. This is a mage card, again. A 2-mana cost spell that adds a random minion to your hand that costs 3 less. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's got a lot of potential because the majority of minions are going to cost 3 or more. But it does have the ability to backfire on you. And there are really crap minions to get off of this. So, will this be played? I don't know, honestly. But, yeah, this could be a very interesting card. It's so random, though. So random. I would never play this in a deck of my own. But maybe it will maybe it will see play off of others. Don't know. Next up, Upgraded Repair Bot, a 5-mana 5/5. Hey, good stats. With a Battle Cry of Give 'em Friendly Mech plus 4 health. This is... Well... This would be okay in a Priest Mech deck. The problem is a Priest Mech deck would not be okay. I don't feel that a Priest Mech deck would have competitive viability, and therefore this card, while certainly good, assuming there were good mechs to run for a Priest Mech deck, he's just not going to have targets. I mean, it's sad to see such a high-value minion go, but it's kind of like a Temple Enforcer situation where there's just better cards for Priest to be running, because this guy's not going to have amazing targets. Unfortunate, but true. Next up is Velen's Chosen, a 3-mana spell to give a minion +2/+4 and spell damage +1. That is going to be one heck of a scary Northshire Cleric. And I'm choosing the weakest minion that Priest runs, because you suddenly get a 3/7 with +1 spell damage, and every time a minion is healed, draw a card. That's crazy powerful on the weakest minion that a Priest tends to run. Blah! That's good. That is very, very good. But will it be ran? I'm not sure what a Priest will remove, because Priests are known for being so control-heavy. And really having that be their game. So, since you're not removing control spells, which are basically the only spells Priests run, what are you removing for this? Minions? Priest is already a little bit low on minions, so I'm not sure how this is going to work its way into decks, but if it finds a way to, it's going to wreck. because it is a crazy good card. And next, we have Voltron. But they weren't allowed to name it that because that was copyrighted, so instead they named it V07tron. Come on, Blizzard. An 8 mana 4/8 mech with charge and Mega Wind Fury, which means he can attack 4 times a turn. So he's really an 8 mana 12/8. That Priest can't deal with. This guy's the death of priests. That's all it is. Priest's only hope at this point is going back to the Shrinkmeister and maybe stealing this guy with the Cabal Shadow Priest and then punishing your opponent for daring to challenge your authority. But otherwise the Priest is just going to lose to this because holy crap. Shamans are going to kill everything now. Shaman will be Priest's worst matchup, period. Good game. You see a Shaman as a Priest, you just automatically quit because they run this card and they just destroy you. Did Blizzard even think when they made this card? Because one Rockbiter weapon means 28 damage in one turn. 7 times 4, 28 in one turn with charge and 8 health. He's going to plow through a taunt minion and then still have 21 damage to shoot at your face. Shamans are going to absolutely love this card. It will be in Shaman decks, and it will wreck Priests. Bar none. I'm angry, actually, about this. Because this is a very targeted card that buffs Shamans and will destroy Priests. But, dang. That's a crazy good card. Oh. Wait. You can't actually run him. Yeah, I know. I hyped you guys up for nothing. He can only be summoned by Mimiron's Head, a 5 mana 4/5 mech. With the text, at the start of your turn, if you have at least 3 mechs, destroy them all and form Voltron. So, still hard to deal with for a Priest, but far more manageable. Especially given the fact that this, since the text reads at the start of your turn, trigger this effect, a Priest has time to either deal with Mimiron's Head, or to kill off the other mech so that the effect can't trigger. So, because it isn't at the start of your turn thing, it means it has to survive through the Priest's turn, through your opponent's turn, and then it can trigger. So this is going to end up just being a far more, you know, win more card, because you've already managed to keep 3 mechs on the field through your opponent's turn, with them only having to kill off one of them to stop this. And when you have that kind of unassailable position, you've already won the game. So, I mean, yeah, sure, Voltron is crazy good, but you're not going to summon him. It's not going to happen. So, I could see someone trying to run a Mimiron's Head deck that just is, you know, a mech aggro deck. Maybe, you know, Death Rattle Mech Mage will try to run this. I can certainly see it being viable. But is it OP? No. Your opponent has so many opportunities to kill this thing, meaning their entire turn. Or just one other mech on the field. And a lot of these mechs, you know, say one of those 2 mechs, or one of those other 2 mechs is an explosive sheep. Funniest thing NA. Anyway. Moving on, now that we know Voltron is not OP. We have Bouncing Blade, a warrior card that costs 3 mana that deals 1 damage to a random enemy minion, and you repeat this until a minion dies. This, of course, can kill off your own minions, so you gotta be careful there, but this plus an Armorsmith, pretty good. This, when you have an empty board, amazing. I mean, Control Warrior is going to run this, and combo this with Execute, for example. That's just good value, because you are very likely to at least damage the one opponent minion that you want to execute. So this is a really good card, and a really strong buff to warriors, and it's going to be ran. I don't know exactly how well other classes are going to be able to play around it, But, this is a really strong card and a great buff for Control Warrior. Did Control Warrior need that? Well, yes and no, because every other class is getting a buff with this release, so of course Control Warrior needs a buff, but how drastic is the buff that this is giving? Don't know. I really want to see what this does, though. Next up is Clockwork Giant, a 12 mana 8/8 mech that costs 1 less for each card in your opponent's hand. I guess it's the counter to Handlock, but how many decks will actually run this? I mean, you don't want your opponent filling up their hand. And against aggro, this guy is just absolute, like, he's a turd on a stick against aggro. Because aggro's just going to dump their hand, and he's going to cost 12, and you're never going to get him. However, he could be good in a mill rogue. Maybe. I don't know if this is Blizzard's attempt to get people to try to start competitive milling, but... Huh. Competitive milling with this guy. Still not good because you're giving your opponent tons of answers, potentially, to Clockwork Giant. So, I don't really like this card because you're asking your opponent, let me play something when you are bound to have an answer because you're going to be having, you know, at the very least 6 cards in your hand, one of which will probably be able to answer this. And again, this is good against Handlock, but in a non-mill deck that doesn't try to fill up its opponent's hand, this card is so inconsistent that it is not competitively viable, in my opinion. So, I will not be running this, and I can't see it really actually being viable in any deck other than a mill deck. So, we'll see. Next up, Clockwork Gnome, a 1-mana 2/1 mech. Good stats for a 2/1 with a death rattle of add a spare part to your hand. This is really good because, first of all, his stats are just good. And the death rattle, there's spare parts, we'll touch on them as we go. Actually, let me see, can I just find all these spare parts? Or are they all coming right after him? No, they are not. So, I think, yeah, this is all of them. So we're just going to jump into them. First up is Armor Plating, and all of these spare parts do cost 1. It's a 1-mana spell to give a minion +1 health. That's pretty good to get as a death rattle off of a 2/1. Emergency Coolant frees a minion. That's also good. Again, to get off of a 2/1 as a death rattle. And that's a mech with death rattle, by the way, so death rattle mechs are happening. In a mage deck, this would be even better. So, here we go. Death rattle mecha mage, it's going to be a thing. I am predicting it. Finicky Cloak Field. Give a friendly minion stealth until your next turn. Good. Just good. Reversing Switch, swap a minion's attack and health. That'll be fun, and it's actually viable in any deck. Maybe best with Priest, but still... Mecha Mage. Rusty Horn, give a minion taunt. And Time Rewinder, return a friendly minion to your hand. Whirling Blades, give a minion +1 attack. That's it. Still, all of that, and it's very, you know, finicky. You only get one of them, but still, a 2/1 that gives you any of those cards as a death rattle is just good. Like, this is just a strong, strong minion that will be ran. And I want to see Mecha Mage to see how powerful it will be, because mages have good draw engines, they have plenty of board wipe late game, and making an aggro deck like this that just can kind of keep itself gassed and uses its own minions to buff its other minions. The synergies are off the charts. Like, Mage was meant to run an aggro mech deck, and it's going to happen, and I'm honestly going to love it. I might start playing Mage because of it. I don't know, my loyalty to Priest is strong, but we will see. Just a great minion. Great minion. Next up, Gnomish Experimenter, a 3-mana 3/2, so poor stats, but the battle cry is draw a card. If it's a minion, transform that minion into a chicken. What? Don't even... Okay, I shouldn't have to explain why this guy sucks. Balls. Like, sure, you get a draw, but his stats are poor for his mana cost, and he's going to bite you in the butt. Period. Like, no minion you have is going to be worse than a chicken. Why would you make this card? Just to screw over the portal? Unstable portal? Is that why you made this, Blizzard? This card sucks. Next up is Tinkertown Technician, a 3-mana 3/3. Okay, that's good. He has a battle cry of if you have a mech, gain +1/+1 and add a spare part to your hand. Come on, let's keep going. Death Rattle Mecha Mage, gonna be a thing. The spare parts. Good. Good card. And then, of course, let's just run back through the spare parts, right? Next up, Goblin Auto Barber, a 2-mana 3/2 with a battle cry of give your weapon +1 attack. It is a rogue-only card. Still good stats for a 2-mana card. And buffing a rogue's weapon. Like, coin into weapon is now scary because someone could drop an Auto Barber and have 5 damage on turn 2 on the board. Of course, he can't swing with the 3/2, I'm aware of that, but... My goodness! This is a strong rogue card, and... while I don't see Death Rattle Mecha Rogue really working, maybe just a Mecha Rogue could be a thing. I don't know. Either that, I mean, even in a non-mech deck, this is crazy good. So, maybe I'm just completely off base and some aggro Mecha Rogue is not going to happen at all, but this card will be run by rogues because it's just good. It is just good. Next up is Goblin Sapper, a 3-mana 2/4 that has +4 attack while your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand. Again, I feel like Blizzard's actually trying to push competitive milling onto the scene, but... maybe in Warrior with a Warsong Commander, because Warsong can buff him and give him charge, and then he immediately gets the buff and still has charge, but... it's not... I don't know. In a non-mill style deck, you cannot rely on him. At all. Because your opponent is going to have a turn to drop cards out of their hand, which they can always do at the very least. Say hi to the dog. And, you know, that's assuming they don't have an answer to him, which they very well could. So, I don't like him. But I'm interested to see if somebody tries to start up a competitive mill deck, because I feel like in this meta, now's its time to shine if ever. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with him, but as for running him in a priest deck, most certainly not. Next up, Illuminator, a 3-mana 2/4 with if you control a secret, at the end of your turn restore 4 health to your hero. Huh? In a mage deck, I guess a secret mage would make it okay. I guess Paladin could really make use of him. Priests don't even have secrets, so come on, guys. What? What's the... secret decks are built to really just kind of be durable if they're mages, so you don't need this if you're a mage. If you're a hunter, come on, you want a stronger minion than a 2/4. You shouldn't be needing to heal your hero. You're the one spitting damage out if you're the hunter. You're not the one taking it over and over and over and over. Paladin? Maybe, but Paladin's secrets are notorious for being the worst set of secrets in the game, and no other class is even really running secrets. So, what's the deal here? I mean, the text is good, but none of the decks that run secrets need this card. So, given that its stats are not what an aggro deck wants, that Paladin secrets are just crap anyway, and that Mage is durable enough to not need this, this card is not going to be competitively viable unless Hearthstone suddenly becomes a game where every class gets secrets that are good. So, yeah. Illuminator's not going to make a splash. Next up is Shield Maiden, a warrior class specific card. A 6 mana 5/5 with a battle cry of gain 5 armor. So even though the stats are a bit below average for a 6 mana cost minion, that is a pretty nice battle cry. Because it's even stronger than Restore 5 health. So, I don't know. On the flip side, I don't see Control Warrior needing this, and this is too late for Aggro Warrior decks to use, because Control Warrior is supposed to be dropping minions that are impossible to deal with. And this is not impossible to deal with. It's good for health durability, but in terms of dealing with it, sure, there's plenty of cards that can deal with this. Holy Fire, Shadow Word Death, just to name priest versions. I don't know. I mean, the card seems okay, but it doesn't feel like it fits into either of the existing warrior deck archetypes. So I'm interested to see if I am wrong, I'm missing it, and this is actually a good card that's flown over my head, or if I'm right and, while not bad, this card just doesn't fit into the existing deck archetypes, and so it's not played. Next up is Jeeves, a 4-mana 1/4 mech, whose text reads, at the end of each player's turn, that player draws until they have 3 cards. Okay, the stats are crap for a 4-mana card. But no, Jeeves is not going to be ran. In an aggro deck, he is too weak on stats to be good. But an aggro deck is the only thing that needs to actually be drawing to where they have a total of 3 cards and who plan to be consistently under... Actually, wait a minute. What is the wording on this? Is this 3 cards in hand or 3 cards left in the deck? Because that's going to change things. Wait. Hang on. Okay, its hand has 3 cards right here. Hand has 3 cards. So yeah, I was right in my first statement. Aggro's the only thing that's going to be so far out of gas that it would need a card like this, but his stats are so terrible that I don't think aggro will make use of him. Somebody just go grab Nat Pagal instead. So, yeah, nice try, but Jeeves I don't think is that good. Which is really unfortunate. I'd love to see a competitive deck with a Mech Butler. Look at the class on this guy. The class that is present. Ooh, man. He could even be an evil... You don't even know. He could be a Sir. He could be an evil genius. He's just so dang classy. And yet he's not competitively viable. Next up, Ancestor's Call. Yes, there was a Shaman class card. There's also a Druid one buried somewhere in here. And a Hunter one. Ooh. Okay, anyway, enough goofing around. The Shaman class card is Ancestor's Call, a 4-mana spell that reads, put a random minion from each player's hand into the battlefield. Yeah, here we go. This is basically... Shamans are going to start really just building decks that run like Future Sight, the 3-mana spell that has you draw a card, and that card costs 3 less. Shamans are going to become a class that can kind of survive aggro because they've got so much cheap board clear that's also good. And then just run a bunch of strong minions, like running Kel'Thuzad, running just all these legendaries. And so we're going to get Legendary Shaman coming in. And this card is going to help pilot it. Shaman just has so many cards that can do that. Like, turn 6, drop this, and assuming you run only legendary minions that are really strong, you get out some legendary. Then you drop, I think it's Ancestor's Chosen, 2-mana spell, gives a minion death rattle, summon itself back. You've just created the most difficult thing to get rid of on turn 6, and it's going to be a legendary that costs 6 mana or more. And it's just, yeah, this is going to make Legend Shaman a thing. And I really do not like the idea of a Legend Shaman, because that's... Shaman's got so much cheap removal, and... like, they have enough control built into their class, and it's so cheap that a Legend Shaman would just be unstoppable, in my opinion. Unless you were to try to race them, because they will be slow by nature. And... I don't like that. If this were to be Magic the Gathering, this card is what just gave birth to ramp aggro. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but... yeah. This is going to be cheating out strong minions for far less than you should be able to cheat them out for. And, dang. Next up, Foe Reaper 4000, an 8 mana 4/9 mech, who also damages the minions next to whomever he attacks. So... dang, bro. This in a Shaman deck. Give it Wind Fury. And, he's just going to be instant board clear. I mean, holy crap. In other decks, I don't see him being that great. I mean, yeah. But, again, a Legend Shaman could make a lot of use of this guy. And it would be scary. Next up is the Paladin class card, a 2-mana 2/2 mech called Anodized Robocub. That is the most adorable thing. He has and you get to choose one for him, either give him +1 attack or +1 health. A 2-mana 3/2 with Taunt, it's okay, but, I feel like Trump was involved in the creation of this. Just because of the bear. I don't know. But, I don't know, the situational flexibility is nice, but on the other hand, I don't feel like he's broken. He's good. He's good, but broken, no. So, okay. Fellow Cannon, the Warlock class card, a 4-mana 3/5 minion, also a mech, with text at the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to each non-mech minion. Are we trying to make a Death Rattle mech zoo thing happen here? Mech zoo confirmed, Illuminati? Blizzard? I don't think so. Because zoo runs on the concept of having sticky minions. And I haven't seen sticky mechs. I mean, I guess this guy combo's okay with Nerubian Egg. But, I don't know. I think there will definitely be attempts at a mech zoo, but... Mechalock, but... I don't know. I'm interested to see how this card is going to affect the meta, because it's going to be hard to run in a deck, because I haven't seen enough mechs that seem competitively viable enough to actually build a deck around that was strictly aggro. Don't know. Next up, Screwjank Clunker. That name is both screwy, janky, and clunky. It's so flavorful. A 4-mana 2/5 warrior card with a battle cry of give a friendly mech +2/+2. I don't think it's gonna happen because Mecha Warrior is not gonna happen. It's just, yeah, no. Next up, Muster for Battle, a 3-mana paladin spell that's whose text reads: summon 3 1/1 Silverhand recruits and equip Criparian boys? No. Equip a 1/4 weapon. Sorry about that. This is literally like Summon Dink Army. And Paladin doesn't need more dinky dinks. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, oh, this is OP because Paladin's already got so many dinks. Who thought it was a good idea to give him more? This is stupid. I'm stating this because Paladin does not need more dinks. Like, that's not what their class objective wants to be. They have their hero power for dinks, and this is just, let's take dinks through the roof. And it's just... No. No. Don't even bother. Let me drop a Wild Pyromancer and I'll show you how stupidly funny it is that you even run this card. This, honestly, this is poor design. This card is not going to be ran or be useful. Sorry. And that's it. What happened to the Hunter class card? Hang on. They even have one. Hunter? Nope, there's no Hunter class cards that are released in this. Is this all of them? Yeah, this is all of them. Huh. Either check his room or downstairs or something? He should be here. I don't know. Thank you. Sorry about that. Anyway. Yeah, I guess that's it for the card review. This will be an interesting release because, again, we're going to see Ramp Shaman. And I think we're going to see a Death Rattle Mecha Mage. But... Control Warrior... Okay, not but. Control Warrior also gets a buff. And Priest got some pretty nice cards. Especially the Shrinkmeister. But... I don't know. What is this going to do to the meta? I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I'm actually very eager to see, but I will keep playing Priest for certainly a while, and I will run this Shrinkmeister because, oh, the value. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. Maybe share this with your friends. I don't know. My YouTube channel's kind of dead anyway because I don't play Hearthstone that much anymore. College OP, but hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, leave a like, maybe share it. Share my channel with somebody you know. Every bit helps. And if you didn't, go ahead, leave me some hate in the comments. Tell me what an idiot I am, and I will love to get back to you. Alright, see you guys. Thanks for watching.